This is sacred ground.
The most historic track in American history.
We'll win the Indianapolis 500.
A place where legends are made.
Where glory can be attained.
Where reputations are cemented.
And here's the checkered flag.
A win here etches your name
Forever in racing history. This is Indy.
This is the Brickyard.
The historic pagoda, just one of the enduring images that identifies this place as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. For some, it is the world's greatest race course. For others, it is simply the most hallowed ground in all of American motorsports. Today, for the 17th time, the stars and cars of NASCAR are here to compete. And over the next 3 days, these drivers will cross this yard of bricks thousands of times. But on Sunday, only one will kneel to kiss them. The question is, who will it be?
Well, Doc, 2 drivers have combined to win 7 Brickyard 400s, and 2 of them are the favorites every time they come to Indianapolis. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Both drivers going for history here on Sunday. Jeff Gordon hoping to tie Michael Schumacher and win 5 times, while Jimmy Johnson hopes to become the first driver to ever win 3 consecutive Brickyard 400s. But there are 2 new elements this weekend. Goodyear brought a brand new tire. While this is the first time this car is running the spoiler, both elements teams will be keeping an eye on.
And Jamie, with the magnitude of this place and the importance of this race, what is the agenda for the first hour of practice? You need to make sure that with a race this big, you don't try to win it in the first hour of the race weekend. And for these teams, crew chiefs up and down have told me it's a baseline type of situation. The track conditions right now aren't anything like they'll have tomorrow morning in qualifying. They're nothing like they'll see in the race on Sunday. So for these teams, it's a chance to see what your car can do when the conditions do come to you. And by the end of practice today, we'll see some teams taking those mock qualifying runs, which will help them get ready for tomorrow's pole run here at the Brickyard. Marty Reed.
All righty, thank you, Dave, and hello, everybody. Cars, as you can see, just getting out on track for the first time as we come topside along with Dale Jarrett, Andy Petrie. Andy, you said earlier this week something that was really interesting. You called this racetrack pure. What did you mean?
Well, it's very historical racetrack, but it's also very unique. It's got these big, long straightaways and flat turns that only turn 90 degrees, and it just puts a premium on every single part of the car. You got to have a good engine to get down these straightaways. You got to have aerodynamics that make good downforce, and you got to have a car that's got a low center of gravity, like a short track car, to get through these corners. And it takes all of that and more to run, and you have to have it all right at this racetrack.
In 16 prior runnings of this event, there have been 9 different winners. Here are the all-time win lists, with Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson leading the way, and Tony Stewart, a guy by the name of Dale Jarrett, with 2 apiece. And DJ, that list, there are no flukes.
Well, that's good to know. Since my name is on there, I'm glad that you put it like that. I'm very honored to be a part of that group. Martin, you're exactly right. And a lot of that is because exactly what Andy was talking about, how difficult this racetrack is. It is the most difficult circuit that these guys will face because of all the things, the lack of banking here, the temperatures here. Track temps over 140 degrees right now. There's not any rubber down. So it's a weekend that you really have to temper your enthusiasm because you're so excited about being here, but you really have a job to do to really communicate well and try to get yourself in a position. You only have one opportunity a year to kiss the bricks at the end of Sunday.
And Jeff Gordon would love to kiss him for the 5th time in his Sprint Cup career. And there you can see his 10 top 5 finishes this season, leads all drivers. In fact, he hasn't been outside the top 5 in his last 5 starts, but he has yet to win. What a place to turn it around.
Yeah, this could really eliminate all of those thoughts that these guys have about those races early in the season that they literally dominated, but for some reason or another, Andy, could never get to victory lane.
They have had winning race cars, and I don't know how many races this year. They just haven't been able to pull it off. They're due a break to get that win, though, and this would be a great place for that to happen for this team, and it sure could propel them for the rest of the season.
Well, as we also set the stage, let's talk about the fact that in 16 prior runnings, the winner 8 times has gone on to win the championship. I mean, you talk about a bellwether. This is it.
Yeah, and if you look at that list, and you'll see some second place, some guys that have won this race that finished in the top 2 in the points too. It's no flukes here. You have to have it right, and it puts a premium on the driver. I know Dale was a little bit kind of humble in that respect, but I'll tell you, this track takes a driver that's got a lot of skills and is very diversified.
Well, let's take a look at Bobby Labonte right now as he is out there currently. You saw that speeds. Fastest so far is Jeff Burton, but very much in the early going in this. And of course, Bobby keeping the string intact, still running, going to be running later on in the year with the team he started with. And so right as we switch over to Tony Stewart, a little bit different paint job for the Office Depot 14.
Yeah, I know these guys are just getting these baseline runs in. It's like we heard Dave say. The 14 car is fourth on the chart right now in speed. So I guess he's pretty happy with his baseline or shakedown run.
That's what you really want to see, Andy, and you've said this before, and I won't steal your line, but you want to see speed here early, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You don't want to go out there and say, okay, well, I'm a little this, I'm a little that, but, you know, you're 22nd or something. You want that thing up on speed, because if you don't have the speed, it's really hard to even keep up with the racetrack, because the first thing you got to have is speed.
Yeah, there's only so fast you're going to go through these corners, regardless of how fast your car may go down the straightaway. So if you don't have that straightaway speed and can transfer that from coming out of the corners down the straightaway, then you're going to be kind of lost and searching a lot.
Well, Tony shares a record along with Jeff Gordon with a minimum of 5 starts. They have the best average finish here at the Brickyard, 8.6. Our own Rusty Wallace, third. On down through Dale Earnhardt, Kevin Harvick, and Bill Elliott. Of course, the guy who had heartbreak last year got ticketed for speeding. There he is. And the target, Chip Ganassi, who's looking for the three-peat. Or not actually the three-peat, the trifecta we should probably call it, the Triple Crown. Juan Pablo Montoya last year leading this race got busted.
Yeah, you know, I've read this week interviews from Montoya, and he's been talking about that, you know, when he got on his airplane and was headed back to South Florida, that that was over with. That was finished. And Chip Ganassi pretty much said the same thing on NASCAR Now yesterday. I find that a little hard to believe, but I'm betting you when he got back in that race car today that he thought about what he did with the dominating performance, and they let that slip away here just last year.
He led 116 of the first 124 laps. The penalty came on lap 125. And look who's at the top of the speed charts early.
Yeah,
Jimmy Johnson.
You heard me talking about speed, and he said in the garage area while a few cars made their initial runs. He goes out there and he's like 7/10 of a second faster than second place.
And remember, we're just getting this track rubbered up because of the diamond cut. We'll talk more about that. But first, let's talk about NASCAR Nationwide Series over at O'Reilly Raceway Park. That's tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Then Sports Center at the Brickyard tomorrow at 7 Eastern on ESPN. And then NASCAR Sprint Cup action. We'll have qualifying tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Happy hour at 3:30 Eastern, also on ESPN2. Then we'll shift over to ESPN for NASCAR Countdown at noon Eastern in the Brickyard 400. Presented by a Golden Corral on Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN. So, practice underway here at the 17th running of the Brickyard 400.
Kissing the bricks, I guess, is the second generation of drinking the milk.
Started by Dale Jarrett when he won that race, went out and kissed the bricks at the start-finish line. It created a movement that will always be remembered.
I think every driver went, yeah. I don't care how dirty, gritty, nasty those bricks are. If I win that race, I want to go down there and kiss those bricks too.
And Dale, I have to ask you, did you realize what you'd started?
No, and I can't take all the credit. My crew chief, Todd Parrott, said, come on, we're going out here to the start-finish line. And it is something that we had, talked about how special a place it was, but had no idea that may catch on. And, we've seen kids down here taking pictures and kissing the bricks right here in front of us. So it's kind of cool to know that we helped start something that everybody enjoys doing now.
There's a couple of guys that have kissed the bricks. Doc, what's going on?
Interesting, Marty. Totally different philosophy down here among the 3 guys who are the top 3 in the point standing. Jimmy Johnson went out and ran a couple of laps talking to Chad Knaus there in front of the car. And Jimmy went out, total qualifying package here. Went out and ran a couple laps wide open, came in, he made some adjustments. This entire hour for Jimmy is going to be spent in qualifying trim. They said that they got to qualify well. Chad Knaus says we got to be down toward the end of pit road, one of those first 9 spots, because of how narrow it is. And it's critical for us on race day to be totally down there. Now, to his right is the points leader, Kevin Harvick, and Harvick's entire concept for this session is to work on race setup. Kevin went out and ran a couple of laps, said the car was very, very tight, and now Gil Martin and the guys are going in to make an adjustment and spring change on the front of the car to try to loosen Kevin up a little bit so the car can turn in the corners. So Harvick, and to his right, Jeff Gordon, the 4-time Brickyard 400 winner, also working totally on race setup. No qualifying setup at all in this session until later today. All about what's going to happen on race day for these guys.
Interesting, because we were talking before as we take a look at the different paint scheme on the 33 of Clint Boyer. He's going to be our in-race reporter. And if you want to ask Clint a question, maybe answer during our race coverage, go to ESPN.com. Keyword, ask the driver, and then stay tuned to the race Sunday at 1 Eastern to see if it's your question that was chosen for the telecast. As he continues around, we were talking, and you guys didn't think anybody would be this early worrying about qualifying because the track would be so green and so hot.
And high. That's the problem, the thing I think about. But, you know, it just shows you they're putting the emphasis on qualifying. They think it's really important, and I don't disagree. I think it is, too. I think having that pit stall down at the end of pit road and having the #1 stall, which is the one they're looking at, they're not looking at any of those top 9. They're looking at the first one, and that is very important.
But, Dale, are they really going to have something because the track's going to change so much?
Well, and that brings up something else interesting, Marty, because they're not going to, if you're doing race setup right now, you're really not learning a whole lot for that, because by tomorrow afternoon, they have 2 practice sessions after qualifying. This is going to be a totally different racetrack then. So I like their thinking. As you know from earlier, I said, no, I think that we won't see anybody doing qualifying, but that's why these guys are 4-time champs, and they're thinking ahead, and I really like the idea.
Well, we're going to find out as this continues to unfold. Already some interesting twists that we did not expect. And as we take a look at Kyle Busch as he makes his way out onto practice. And Dave Burns, you've got more on the 18th.
And this is a race trim car, guys, if you want to keep a tally up there, because it's going to be all over the board today, it sounds like. But Kyle didn't make one timed lap. He went out on the track and he came right back in without tripping the timing wire on his way by. The reason? He was hitting the splitter of that car on the track. Now, we know we want to keep these cars down as low as possible to get them in the right attitude to go through the air, but this one was slamming down on the splitter, so Kyle came right in, and they changed a bunch of stuff on that. In fact, there's probably a laundry list of things you could do to try to get it up out of the track. Let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer. Tim, what might you do?
Tell you what, Dave, every time you add more tape to the front of the car, you change the downforce on the car. By changing the downforce, the car travels more. You see these indicators right here? We can actually manipulate the length of this splitter right here by determining how it's hitting the ground. But how do we raise the car up? These guys, they run this system right here. And you see when you compress the shock absorber, the deflection right here in the rubber, that's bouncing. But when the splitter's hitting real hard, you got to come back in here with these packers. And by inserting just a little bit here, maybe as little as 60 thousandths of an inch or as much as an 1/8 of an inch, by putting that inserting right there in that shock, what you can do is raise that splitter up, get it up off the ground, make the car drive a lot better and run a lot faster here at Indy.
All right, thank you, Tim. As you see, Kyle is coming back in, and we noticed some sparks, so it still was hitting the front splitter.
All these teams have a way to measure this before they get to the track. They have these machines that they can put in the loads, and they can adjust those bump stops like we saw Tim there on the shocks, and they can predict where these cars are going to travel. Sometimes you miss that. Obviously, they've missed the setup just a little bit right there, probably in maybe how much load that they're seeing. Maybe the downforce is a little more than they anticipated. But they'll make those quick adjustments and get back out.
Yeah, it used to be something that because you came here and spent 2 or 3 days testing that you could work a lot of that out, but you don't have that opportunity now. That's what's even more impressive about Jimmy Johnson's lap to me.
Yeah, that's a lot of preparation at the shop. They had that car ready to go when he hit the track, and then Jimmy was ready to go too, because like I said, he's 7/10 faster than second place right now.
A.J. Allmendinger right now, you saw where his best finish here in 2 starts was 10th. In fact, that was his first time he ever scored a top 10 in Sprint Cup history back in 2008. The 28-year-old driving, of course, the famed 43.
We heard a lot of people talking about race setup, qualifying setup. Probably the biggest thing, the difference is in the weight distribution. You want to put a lot of nose weight in the car to make a qualifying lap, and that takes a little bit of time. You got to move that ballast around in the frame rails. You also do make some spring changes and a few other things, but you know that's probably the primary difference is that they've got a little more nose weight. They kind of set up for that tape and that downforce that they put on the front and just make one lap. and see how much speed they have.
Well, his top 15 finishes in 7 of the last 8 races. And like everybody, he has some favorite moments of Indy.
The first Brickyard, to see Jeff win that as a kid, it was pretty awesome.
Jeff Gordon is about to write his name in the racing history books. Jeff Gordon, winner of the inaugural Brickyard 400.
I remember just being at my house with my mom and dad watching on TV, and it was cool to see.
It's just something about the place that everybody wants to go to. And there's been so many moments that you've watched, and to be a part of that moment.
Kevin Harvick wins the 10th running of the Brickyard 400 of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Get to kneel down and kiss the bricks and be a part of everything. The coolest part about winning Indy is the victory lap after you win. You ride around the track and see all the fans that are true race fans that stick around to see the winner and know the tradition of Indy, and they know that victory lap is going to happen.
What a special memory for Kevin Harvick, winning at Indianapolis Motor Speedway from the pole back in 2003. And what a difference a year makes for Kevin Harvick. Came here last year, had trouble qualifying, finally started 19th. Kept working all day long and was able to get a top 10 finish. Now, Harvick, we mentioned in this session here, just climbing back aboard the car, working totally on race setup. They're worried about what's going to happen on race day. They want to be able to run in the top 10 and maybe finish in the top 5 or win this thing, because the big picture for this team is Kevin Harvick right now as the points leader wants to become the next driver to win the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. He has never done that, although he has won twice in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Harvick back aboard the car after a front-end adjustment, getting ready to head back out.
All right, Doc, so the update on Kevin, and boy, you talk about what a change a year makes. I mean, he wasn't even a blip on the radar last year. Points position at this point was 25th, and what a difference.
Well, he came back out focused this year on the points, and that's paying off for him, and he's also won a couple races. So yeah, it's been a good year so far for Richard Childress Racing.
Yeah, and Kevin told us the other night that it was about this time last year they really started making some changes to their race cars, and it's paid big dividends for everybody there.
They've already scored 956 more points this year than they did at this point last year, almost 1,000. As we go back out on track, there is the 18, so we'll see about the ride height. And we went back during commercial break. We'll let you know it was not sparks. It was actually a piece of tape, but it showed that they were rubbing still on that splitter.
Still to get to make a timed lap. It looks like they're going to make a full lap here and kind of see where they stack up. See, run right behind Martin Truex.
Truex right now 7th on the speed charts. He's run a total of 9 laps, turning some of the most laps early here. 173.84 miles an hour.
This is it. With the track temperature like we're seeing here, this is very slick racetrack. This is a difficult place. Not a lot of banking, as you can see. So with a 3,400-pound stock car, this becomes a handful for these drivers. And even though the diamond grinding that they do of this track gives it more grip, and Goodyear brings a really good tire, it still is a handful to try to get a lot of speed out of your car at this particular time.
Crew chief, track temperature 141 degrees. If you were making the shots and calling them right now, what would you be?
Well, you just adjust to it. You know, whatever the track temp is, it is, and you have to adjust to that track temperature, and you can use that data later. I mean, we could have a track condition like this on Sunday, and this could be valuable data for the teams to be gathering.
How about third fastest on the chart? Beautiful paint job on the 31 of Jeff Burton. The 43-year-old is the only driver that has competed in all 16 prior races here at the Brickyard, and he has been running at the end of every single one of them. The only guy who can claim that.
Wow.
It's another car and team that has had winning race cars in 4 or 5 races this year, and just have not been able to pull off that victory.
I still think if they get some racing luck, this could be Jeff Burton's opportunity this year to win the Sprint Cup Championship. I just firmly believe that he's at an age and a time in his career that things are going well. They just need a little racing luck, and maybe a few of them were decisions that they made, but they put all that together, Marty, in the last 10.
Well, and one of the things, he had the pole here back in 2006. His best finish was 8th in 2007. He's been in the top 10 4 times, but just hasn't quite been able to get there first to the stripe. Todd Bodine heading out on the track, and it looks like he may have made a wrong turn somewhere.
Yeah, it's a big track. You can get lost sometimes.
You can, yeah, and it could have possibly spun off of that. Those aprons are very slick.
We're getting words that that was actually the MotoGP course that he decided to take a slight tour.
Maybe he likes that one better.
I was going to say, anything to get a little advantage.
I don't know. Those corners are pretty difficult, especially for a car set up only to turn left. Well, Todd's got it figured out. He'll take a little ribbing on Facebook and all his friends tonight. Thanks to us. Way to go, team. Let's check in on Casey Kane, see how Casey's faring so far.
He's 14th so far. Made 4 laps.
Just a driver sitting just outside of that top 12 and wanting to get into the chase. And this is one of them that I think that really has the chance to drive their way in there. And I think that, you know, they're capable of putting together 3 or 4 top 5s in a row and getting themselves in a much better position.
Yeah, they do have the performance to get there. The only thing is, I look in the top 12. For them to get there, somebody's got to fall out.
Yeah.
And I see Clint Boyer right there at that cutoff. And, you know, that's where he lives. He lives on that cutoff. He knows how to race his way into the chase every year. You know how you say that other drivers have raced for the championship. They know how to win one because they've been there every year. Well, Boyer's been in that cutoff point every single year, and he seems to make it in there more times than not.
And Casey, I mean, he also has knocked on the door here as far as getting to victory lane. His best Indy finish 2nd back in 2005. He finished 7th in the last 2 Brickyard 400s, and he has a top 8 starting position in the last 5. So he knows how to get around this track.
Yeah, and we talk about these other, you know, Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon have incentive of doing well. You know, this is, you know, Casey grew up probably thinking he was going to come here in an open wheel car, but he would love to go to victory lane.
Well, as he continues to log laps, I'm looking down. It looks like the most at anybody's turn has been 11 by Jeff Gordon. Robbie Gordon, believe it or not, early going, is 2nd on the speed charts behind Jimmy Johnson. Each of them putting in 1 official lap. And there's Jeff Burton. And on down through, Elliott Sadler rounding out the top 10 in speeds. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, built in 1909, 3.2 million street paving bricks, each weighing just under 10 pounds. They're underneath the surface right now. It's been resurfaced multiple times. As we're back here at first practice session for the 17th running of the Brickyard 400. Glad that you're with us. The motor racing capital of the world. Big buzz, obviously, everybody's been talking about has been Carl Edwards. And, of course, Brad Keselowski. There's Carl climbing out. There's Brad's Sprint Cup car. And just in case you've been in a cave for the last week, let's take you back to what happened at Gateway, because there's been some recent developments we'll explain in just a matter of moments. Everything looked rosy right here on the restart, guys.
Yeah, it went pretty well for a little over a lap or so here.
Carl in the 60 on the high side, just enough room, and here comes Brad saying, okay, I'm going to get you a little loose and take the lead.
Yeah, that's kind of what NASCAR's been promoting, is just have at it, boys, so they can race hard on the racetrack. But right here is where it kind of gets a little ugly.
And it gets even uglier when Brad comes streaking back across the track. You get a better view of it here. Luckily, no one injured in this melee, and this is where it really is just awful.
A lot of innocent victims in that crash.
All right, so both are put on probation for the rest of the year, as you see what it looked like and felt for Brad inside the cockpit, and a $25,000 fine for Carl, and also he loses the 60 points, which he basically gained by spinning him out into the wall. Difference between 1st and 14th. So that's the opinions that have been flying around, obviously, most recently in the media center here at the Brickyard. Here's what Ryan Newman had to say.
Going out there and purposely crashing somebody, turning right or turning left just to crash them on purpose, whether you're winning a race or not, is not at all have at it, boys. That's, you know, some people have called it manslaughter, but that's, or attempted manslaughter. That's closer to what it is. That's not have at it, boys.
That being said,
I'm all for have at it, boys. Let us race, but that's not racing. I mean, we should paint up a 99, 88 Chevy Impala for Carl to go race demolition derbies with, if that's the case. So, I mean, we're racing, we're not demolition derbies.
Well, it seems like it's supposed to be self-policing. What is it that is not working or should be happening?
Brad hasn't decked Carl yet. I mean, to me, that's all it is. Brad just needs to go up there and lay one across his lip, and everything will be fine.
Well, there is Brad, and of course these two are going to meet 7:30 p.m. on Saturday night. You'll see it the first time they'll be back on the track together in race configuration. We'll see what happens there. You guys want to weigh in on that comment by Ryan?
I think he's exactly right. I mean, I don't think that's what NASCAR intended whenever they told these guys to go at it. You know, they have to step in and make decisions then. But it ultimately, Ryan's exactly right. It's between the drivers. And you know, if this is going to continue to happen, Brad's going to have to go. Now, I'm not sure Brad's big enough to go over to Carl without some protection or something, but he needs to get his point across for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with what Carl did there. I think it's definitely over the line. And nobody in the garage or the sport will say that it wasn't. And it's just something NASCAR had to draw that and say, this is it, guys. You can't, you know, we want you to race hard. We want you to rub fenders, and we see that. We've seen it at New Hampshire with Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch. That's the have at it boys that I think they have in mind.
Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, he's with Dr. Jerry Punch.
All right, we're with the three-time and defending winner of the Brickyard 400, and we're Jimmy and I just sitting here chatting, watching the video a moment ago of what happened with Brad and Carl. What is your take as a defending champion on what happened last week at Gateway in those final couple laps?
Well, I mean, it's pretty well documented with the crash and Carl turning it into Brad. You know, I've been watching it and hearing a lot of different comments and remarks, and I think that, you know, from my standpoint, the have at it boys thing is good for our sport. But even with that, I think that we've seen things in the past where, regardless of NASCAR's opinion and how they're going to sanction, you know, the different things that happen on the track, there are always extreme cases. We watched Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jeff Bodine wreck each other for weeks and weeks, and Bill France Jr. said, all right, guys, come down to Daytona and we're going to sort it out. So this could be one of those situations where it's going to take Brian France sitting them down and saying, look, you guys aren't going to mess up my show anymore. But either way, I think these big things will take place regardless of NASCAR's ruling and saying have at it or not to have at it. So I think you're going to have those extreme cases. This is one of them. You know, there was some contact in turn one, and then Carl went to get back his win and took extreme measures to do it. And I think it would have been fine if he would have just spun out. But the fact that he came back across the track and all the other cars were collected, it made it, you know, a much bigger deal.
We've seen you have contact throughout the year, even with your teammate Jeff Gordon and co-owner. At what point do you go over the line in terms of guys have at it in the rubbing and bumping? When does it go too far?
There's a point where somebody's got to almost say uncle in a sense. It could be the car owner, it could be the sponsor, it could be the sanctioning body. You saying, okay, that hurt. You know, I don't want to do this anymore with a particular driver. Or if it's internally in a team, you could say, hey, you're going to tear down the organization by acting this way. So there are different factors, and it's different for every situation. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, in today's world, we are all watching Carl and Brad sort this out, thanks to yourself and all the other great media outlets. And it's been quite entertaining. I'm happy to not be in the middle of it, and it is fun watching from afar, but I can only imagine the hell it kind of was brought onto both of those guys dealing with all the extra questions and their focus being taken away from driving the car.
Let me quickly ask you about you. Now, you guys went out and gave them something to shoot at in terms of a qualifying run right off the bat. Why?
Well, we have so much practice today and tomorrow that we felt like taking today to just focus on the rhythm and the setup needed for me to run the fastest lap tomorrow is the best thing for us. And then tomorrow we can get into our race practice and really work on things from there. So I'm a little surprised that more guys aren't in qualifying trim right now. Hopefully we can find a way to make it work for us and get that first pit stall tomorrow.
Hey, thanks for your time.
You got it. Thank you.
Jimmy Johnson, guys. And by the way, he's about a half a second quicker than anybody else, and they think they're going to make a couple of changes and make it even faster when he goes back out, still in qualifying trim.
And in case you're wondering, as you wrap up, Doc, only one car is out on track right now. In fact, that is now down to 0 as Jeff Burton has pulled in. So that's why we've sort of taken this time to focus on this, to get another perspective on it. In fact, let's check in with Jamie Little.
And Carl, out of the car, just the guys working on it right now. Of course, the subject all week, and it still continues, is you and Brad Keselowski from last week, Carl. Looking back, what is your take on what unfolded and the repercussions?
Well, I feel the same way as I did when I got out of the car. That was the fair outcome to the race. I didn't see any other option as a competitor. You know, you can't just let somebody move you out of the way and take advantage. And the thing about the penalty is, at first I was a little frustrated with it, and I. Now thinking about it, I accept it because you know, there were some guys caught up in Brad and I's mess there that didn't need that, you know. And I've been in that position before, fighting for sponsorship and doing everything we can to get a finish. So that was bad, but it's racing, you know. And NASCAR has told us this season to go out there, take care of things on the racetrack, you know, an eye for an eye, and go for it. We we both probably ought to calm it down a little bit, and then hopefully we can just go over here to ORP and have a fender to fender race tomorrow night and have a good one. But right now the Satellite Fusion is really good. I was surprised how fast that first lap was really easy to drive, and we're third or fourth on the board. So pretty.
Of course, Tony Stewart, right? Your car, I think you're on your phone issue, so we'll let you get in your car.
Yeah, he's fourth on the speed charts right now behind Jimmy Johnson, Robbie Gordon, and Jeff Burton. And he mentioned the race at 7:30 tomorrow night, ESPN. We'll see what happens, as there is Brad Keselowski. And, of course, the penalty of 60 points means the margin is now 228. So the margin still for Brad Keselowski, but the win still goes to the man with the backflip at St. Louis. Round the bases with ESPN Sunday and Monday night. First, Albert Pujols and the Cardinals take on division rival Chicago Cubs on ESPN's Sunday night baseball at 8 Eastern. Then on ESPN's Monday night baseball at 7 Eastern is Triple Crown contender Miguel Cabrera. He leads the Tigers against Evan Longoria and the Rays. Both games available on ESPN3.com. What a beautiful view here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And yes, that is Brickyard Crossing Golf Course with 4 holes inside the racetrack there, right by the pond, the lake. Yeah. And Juan Montoya looking to see if he's taped up here and maybe trying to do a mock run. He's 9th on the speed charts right now. There you see his numbers.
Yeah, and that's another reason I consider this the perfect racetrack, too. Got a golf course at the racetrack. Doesn't get any better than that.
Got everything.
Well, that pond stands out because it's got several of my balls. All right, let's see how he does here. How's the car look to you guys?
Well, it looks good. I like the way the platform looks good. Obviously running the right line here. He knows the line.
Yeah, and watching, you can see him wiggle a little bit out of the turn 4 there. What impressed me last year was just how smooth he was in going so fast around here.
Top of the board, guys.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about 176.88 miles an hour at 50.88 seconds, Dave Byrne?
And Marty, Hughes crew chief Brian Patty told me that if things went well in the early part of practice, they would go to a mock qualifying run as soon as they could, and they did. So things went well in race trim, things went well in qualifying trim, but things aren't going so well for the cool down unit. The unit that cools down the motor in between mock qualifying runs. It is not pumping as much as it should. In other words, it's working, it's just not working as quick as it should. And on a hot day like today, that could slow down their practices. I don't know, after a lap like that, maybe it won't matter as much.
It seems like the air conditioning never works. It always breaks down on a hot day. Never breaks down on like a medium day. That's kind of what's going on. It's super hot down there.
Well, Juan Montoya, as he brings it in, don't forget, he led 167 to 200 laps when he won the Indianapolis 500 back here in 2000. He started that race from the pole. And boy, Chip Ganassi would love to see him pull it off here and give him the trifecta. And here comes his other weapon, Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, we had Chip Ganassi in the pit studio yesterday for NASCAR Now, and he seemed so confident that they were going to have that kind of performance this year that they had last year, and maybe even with 2 cars. Kind of banking on Jamie being good, too.
Yeah, and if he could do it with Montoya to take 3 different drivers in the 3 biggest and do, I mean, that's just incredible.
Hey, what he's already done is incredible.
Yeah. Don't discount this guy's chances. Take a look at the numbers. Jamie, top 5 finishes this year. Of course, winning at Daytona, 2nd Talladega, at Darlington, Charlotte, 5th at Chicago. They could pull this off, and we're talking about something that we probably would never see happen again in our lifetime.
Yeah, I think Jamie kind of likes the big stage too. You know, we talk about drivers liking to get themselves in that spotlight, and even though Jamie stays under the radar a lot, and when you win the Daytona 500, that doesn't stay that way for long, but you can see those are difficult racetracks that he's performed very well at. Doc?
Exactly, DJ. Well put. And Jamie McMurray and his team down here in the Great, they know exactly what is at stake, and that is one of the reasons they have spent their entire session right now on race trim. They want to go to qualifying trim later on, but right now it's all about getting this car comfortable for the race. And the problem they're dealing with right now, DJ, is getting the car to turn in the corner. It is very loose entering the corner. They've made an adjustment, and are out there going to run and get the car to turn and feel comfortable through the middle of the corner. So McMurray realizing he's got a chance to possibly make history for his car owner, Chip Ganassi. Jamie.
And David Rudiman made a little history of his own just a couple weeks ago in Chicago, taking home a win but he's struggling so far today. He says the car is so tight on throttle. He was having a hard time steering earlier. He's brought it in now. This is the third time they're just adjusting on it. Track bar, they have put wedge in this thing. They're trying to get it just so he can drive it and get a better feel. 33rd on the board as of right now. But if it's any consolation to him, good news came out just this morning. He has signed with MWR through 2012, so we will see Rudy and his sponsor, Aaron's Dream Machine, through 2012. That's great news, Marty.
It is for him, and boy, that was a very emotional win and a very popular win among fans and even teams in the garage area. So you can see they're still trying to get things sorted out with the 00, and we'll come back as you see downtown Indianapolis, the White River in the foreground.
The bricks, that I think is probably the most iconic part of the Speedway.
Everybody goes out there and checks that out. It's one of the things that sticks out about the track the most.
You go out there and everybody gets down and kisses the bricks and stuff like that. I think that's really something unique and different.
Gives you a sense of where it's come from. You know, a lot of the history is still physically there, and I think that's amazing.
And Sunday will etch into the record books race number 17 here at the Brickyard 400, presented by Golden Corral. Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN. Coverage begins with our NASCAR countdown at 12 noon. And a lot of great features, stories that I think you'll find very interesting, starting at noon with countdown and the race at 1 p.m. No one has won more times at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway than Roger Penske, 15 times in IndyCar, but not yet in stock cars, and there's probably his best chance in Kurt Busch. But right now, Busch back in the garage area, and boy, you can't say enough about what Roger Penske has done over the course of time.
Yeah, I spent some time at their facility here back a few months ago, and it's just incredible. You see all those banners on the wall in there. One little place in their conference room has got a kind of documents all their Indy 500 wins. It's just incredible. I mean, 15 of those things.
That's right. Out on track, Mark Martin. And Mark, as we're looking, he is 14th on the speed charts right now. He's done a total of 10 laps. His best, 173.6 miles an hour, translates to 51.8 seconds.
Yeah, and they made some gains with this race car. They weren't very happy with their car early in this practice session. They've made it to where Mark's up there, seems to be picking up speed every time he goes out.
And one of the things we keep seeing is guys doing maybe 2 laps, 3 max, and they're coming back in because obviously we're at a 2.5-mile track, and you want to get those adjustments made.
Well, there's a couple things. We see some cars that are in qualifying trim, they'll just make 1 lap. Other cars, if you're out there and you feel like your car's pretty good, you'll stay out there for 3, 4, 5, 6 laps maybe. But as soon as that car does something you don't like, you need to come in because you just need to go ahead and start working on that problem. As soon as you kind of identify a problem or an issue that you can fix and make the car faster, you want to get right in and work on it.
Marcus Ambrose, the 47 car this week. The 33-year-old qualified 24th and 11th in his 2 Indianapolis prior Brickyard appearances. And again, just as we start talking about them, they pull back into the garage area.
I'd have to think that this might be a racetrack that Marcos would really enjoy. Some similarities to driving a road course, the way that you have to attack these corners and do it. He's with a very good race team, so you would think that, and watching Montoya do well here, that might translate for Marcos too.
Well, another great road racer who has run here twice in the Indianapolis 500 is, well, back in the garage area, Dave Burns.
And that is Max Pappas. He's just taken the second of his runs today, both in qualifying trim. And for Max, the agenda really sort of mirrors what Indianapolis has been about for years and years and years, and that's just making the show. These guys cannot do not have a guaranteed spot to get into the Brickyard 400 on Friday. So for them, it is all about putting this car as close to qualifying trim as they can and making those mock runs. He's done 2 at this point, has run fairly well so far, and the team told me that they'll stay in this configuration until the end of this first practice and possibly into the second practice, because for them, there's just one thing: getting in the race.
Yes, they got to get in on speed, so they're going to have to figure it out. And right now, it looks like they are pretty solid on that count because, as we said, they're third right now at 176.3. You're wondering what the track record is? Casey Mears, 186.2. That translates into 48.3 seconds. And hopefully, Greg Biffle's going to stay out on track long enough for us to talk about him. How about this? The 40-year-old, 2 top 10 starts and 7 Indy appearances. Started 12th in the last 2 Brickyard 400s.
And these guys are kind of ready to right the ship a little bit, too. You saw those last 3 finishes, and they've slipped back in the points. But more than that, they want to get competitive where they're talking about winning these races on a weekly basis. And I think that Doug Yates is getting the new engine for Ford figured out better, but they still have some work with these Roush cars.
His best Brickyard finish, 4th last year for the 16. He led 11 laps in the 2007 race. That's the only race he's actually led laps here at the 2.5-mile famed oval.
We watched Greg go around here, and he's in the middle of turn 2 right now, and the exit. We've heard people talk about that they've been loose on the or tight on the exit, loose on the entry, and that's what you have to fight here. You have so many more opportunities with the 4 distinct corners, Andy. For a driver, I know it's difficult, but trying to manage all that as a crew chief is difficult too.
Yeah, you got 4 corners. You got these slow corners. You come off turn 1, going down the short chute. Then you got these long straightaways that you come off of. So getting off the corners is very critical.
Sam Hornish coming in right now. He is 25th on the charts. We were talking about how the splitters were dragging. Here's earlier. Sam had an issue. Jamie?
Yes, he did have an issue. He was complaining early. He actually used the word scared getting into the corner. They've been working on this car, though. He said he just has a lack of support feel, just trying to get it drivable. Right now, it just isn't that way, Marty.
So Sam, as he rolls in, of course, I think you might remember what his favorite moment here at Indianapolis might be.
My favorite moment on track is winning there in 2006.
Hornish closing one more time. Coming out of 4. It's a drag race. Marco Andretti. Hornish, who's going to win? At the stripe, it's Hornish. Oh, Hornish wins. Hornish wins.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, let's show you the top 10 practice speeds. We're just about done here with about 2.5 minutes to go. Juan Pablo Montoya on a qualifying mock run, and with Jimmy Johnson doing the same. Max Pappas, Robbie Gordon looking good so far, all the way down through Tony Stewart, who's run a total of 13 laps. Carl Edwards back out on track, as well with Kevin Conway. In fact, the most cars we've seen on track. And what are they trying to accomplish getting ready for the second practice later?
Well, you've got some that have switched over here late to make a mock qualifying effort. Others are still in their race trim, just filling this racetrack out as it continues to change.
Yeah, they're just going to try to gather data right here so they can have a good discussion here in the little break they have between practice sessions. And then go at it for the last practice to get a good qualifying run in.
Big questions for that 88. Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now 40th on the charts. He's run a total of 8 laps, and the best he can do is 171.4 right behind him.
No, I guess a little bit of the wall right there, almost. They're really struggling with that car today.
Yeah, I was looking over at the scoring monitor to give you Kyle Busch's time. He's right behind him. He's run 16 laps. He's 31st. Both these guys searching for speed.
Yeah, they really are, and I think it's a handling issue. I really don't see them getting to the corners very well, and that really hurts your speed.
Points leader Kevin Harvick, 33rd right now on the charts at 172. So another team looking for some answers. You heard earlier, if you were with us, Ryan Newman, very critical of what happened back at Gateway last week. He is 18th on the chart. So much more is coming your way from Indianapolis, including NASCAR Nationwide Series, O'Reilly Raceway Park. The race is tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN, but it'll begin with practice at 12:30 in the afternoon on ESPN2. Then don't forget about us, the Brickyard 400 presented by Golden Corral. That will be Sunday, 1 Eastern on ESPN. Coverage starts at noon Eastern with NASCAR Countdown. Coming up next, it'll be the Scott Van Pelt Show, and you want to get an idea just how far away we are from, well, it's just a hop, skip, and jump, literally about 5 minutes by helicopter. For our entire ESPN crew, this has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. I'm Marty Reed. Till we meet again.